Can we turn to business development, Reuben? Your experience in business development, but more importantly, what are the mistakes that you see commonly made by entrepreneurs and small business operators in business development?
Yep. In terms of starting a business and growing the business?
I think probably, yeah, let's start there, and then as the business matures.
Yep. Well, I'll leave all the branding and the consumer research and stuff to a branding expert. But what I'll say from an entrepreneurial expert, and I've interviewed, when I was at Wealth Creator magazine, interviewed over 200 entrepreneurs, 40 of them were in the rich list. So these are people that have gone out there and actually achieved something. So what I might do is just maybe tell you a few of the things that they told me and what was the key to their success. Mm-hmm. One of the things Jerry Harvey said to me, he says, is I always surround myself with people that are better than me. Right, and that's a big statement for Jerry to say, because I thought that Jerry was the best, one of the best that you could be in business in Australia. Mm. And so I asked him the question again. He said, well, what I mean by that is I always, if the receptionist girl is better at being a receptionist than I am. The marketing person is better at marketing than me. His wife, who runs the business, Katie Page, she's better at managing people than what Jerry is. He says, I'm not a good manager. So he's recognising that he needs to have other people in the business that have certain skill set, which can actually add value to the business. So a big mistake I think a lot of entrepreneurs made is they think that as an entrepreneur they've got to do it all themselves, and that they should employ people that they can control. But really what you need to be doing as an entrepreneur is employing people who are actually smarter than you, right? So if you think you're pretty good as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a business developer, and you bring on 5 people around you within that business who are all better than you in some way, you're going to have a very, very powerful company. The other thing too is business.
Ego's a factor in that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to be able to let go.
Exactly. And what entrepreneurs don't like, a lot of entrepreneurs, is they like to be in control of everything. They don't necessarily like their staff telling them what to do. And a big mistake, and I don't think a lot of the people that I know would actually do that, is they'll purposely employ people who they can control. Therefore, they're not really adding any real value, you know, to the business itself, right? Or maybe they're not involving them in the actual process. And that's just another part of, you know, what I spoke about before, about having good management, having a business with systems, and a business that actually runs without you as well. Mm. A lot of businesses, when they're developing their business, are a bit undercapitalised, and they don't really know, and the only source of capital that they know of, other than the business's own inherent cash flow, is to head on down to the bank. Now, raising money from a bank right now for any kind of business is difficult, but when you're a small business, there's just the bank doesn't value anything you've done in any tangible sort of way, and what they'll want is to take some security over some property assets that you might have, or somebody else, you know, your partners or something like that. But then if that goes down, the property actually might go with it, so that can be something that can really end the dream for a lot of business people, because to fund the business they actually use their own personal assets as security. And there's lots of there's lots of businesses that are failing at the moment where it's taking the family's assets actually with them because they're leveraging up their own ones. So if as an entrepreneur, and all the successful ones that I've met know how to get capital. They know that banking's one source, but there's lots and lots of other sources of capital. There's different kinds of financing that's available that doesn't involve security of your own property. There's also investors. You can get funding from some of the other companies that you're actually dealing with. So it could be suppliers or customers, could actually be putting money into the business. There's lots of different ways, and so that way the business is never going to be undercapitalised. It's not putting any of your own sort of stuff at risk. But I think it's a very common thing for smaller business people to not be able to really understand about the capital, having the right access to capital. And what it does is it just takes a business so much longer to grow, because the only cash flow they've got to grow the business is what it's actually bringing in the door each day. So, and I think generally one of the keys to good business development is just getting the right people around you, and the best person you could possibly get is a mentor. So get someone involved in the business. If you want to sell your business for $1 million or $10 million or $100 million, or you want to float your company, get someone involved in your business as soon as you possibly can who's done what you want to do. So they mentor you. They might go on your board. They might be an advisor. It could just be somebody that you catch up with regularly. And you should be running everything that you do past them so they can give you their advice, because they've already been there and done that. The silliest thing you can do as a business owner or an entrepreneur is try and reinvent the wheel, or think that you're going to invent a better way. It's been done plenty of times before, so go and find someone who's already done it. All right? So if I'm looking at floating one of my companies, I'll go and get someone on the board right now who's done a couple of floats, right? And they will be able to help me strategically develop the business in a way so that when I do the float, it's already set up, ready to go. It'll be a lot cheaper and a lot faster to actually go and do that.
So Reuben, when you talk about the inclusion of a mentor on the board or within the management team, tell me, who are the other key players that you'd have as your advisors, either at board level or non-executive level, to give you the total inputs for your leadership of any company that you were leading?
Well, as long as if you get the right mentor, and then maybe say 2 mentors, you might have one who's understands your industry and one who's got a completely from outside the industry to give you that real different sort of perspective. Because maybe because you're so inside the industry and that mentor might be in the industry, it's good to have an external perspective which could give you some really good ideas and some good advice. So that's one thing. Having the right, the mentors will actually help drive the actual strategy of where the business needs to go. And then and not all businesses can afford this, of course, but certainly any business can afford a mentor because they're generally for free, right? You shouldn't really have to pay too much money. If you get the right person, they really want to help you with the business, you might give them some shares or something like that, or you might buy them dinner every now and again. It doesn't cost a lot of money to actually have a good mentor on board. So that's the first thing. But a business really needs good financial advice. They need a good accounting firm advising them and overseeing their accounting, so their monthly P&Ls and balance sheet, doing the year-end stuff, and making sure the business is really well managed financially. That's the one thing. You absolutely need that, because just having a bookkeeper and just doing it yourself, you're not really getting any idea of where the business is actually going. The accountant should also be able to provide good tax structuring advice for you, because if you are going to sell the business, where does the money go once the business is actually sold? Right? If it goes, depending on where it goes, you can pay up to 50%. Well, half that money will go in tax, but in different ways you can minimise that right down to probably a quarter of that, just depending on how the structure actually is. So you need a good accountant who can give you good tax advice as well. You also need good legal advice. You need to have a legal advisor, and what they need to understand commercial business. They not family law or anything like that, because they're all specialised, but having a good legal advisor, and they can you don't have to see them all the time, but you might meet up with them every 6 or 12 months. They'll be doing all your legal work, all your contracts and so on in the meantime, but just basically getting them to actually review the business every now and again, making sure that you're on the right track. And I think marketing as well is very, very important. So a lot of businesses aren't proficient at marketing. They don't know how to get their product into the market. They haven't developed the best sales process for it. They haven't, the product or service doesn't necessarily connect with the actual consumers, with what they're actually trying to offer them. So you need to, I suppose, to have all those skills actually within the business, or as consultants near the business. That would be the 3 most important things, over and above, the mentor. In my opinion, if you're doing all of that, I think that you're probably, on the right track to a certain extent.